loanDepot, absolutely packed out. Love to see it. The WBC in Miami, and the crowds are there. We're asking the question, can the Marlins ever tap into what seems to be a very buoyant Latin market in and around the area? Can the Marlins ever do it? Equally, there's some news to get into. Amaya, option down to AAA. What's happening at shortstop moving forwards? Equally, Sean Barrett is in the house. I need to ask him about Yuli Gurriel and also Jose Iglesias. Tons to get into on Monday's episode of Locked On Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings from Great Britain. Yes, sir. Welcome to Locked On Marlins. This is your daily Marlins podcast, and it is Monday, the 13th of March. I'm your host, Peter Pratt. Hit me up on Twitter, mainly at Miami Marlins _UK. Ex-Marlins Media, now just a fan of the podcast. Hit subscribe there. It is your team every day. Head over to YouTube as well. Hit subscribe there. Also, if you are watching, you will see Sean Barrett is with me, the UK GOAT. It is Monday, of course. It is UK-friendly episode as well. Look at it. We have sunlight, Sean. Shocking, I know, but how are we doing, brother?
Not too bad. Yes, we have sunlight, which is really nice. A little bit of warmth out there. Not quite the levels of what we're seeing in spring training on the WBC, but lots of baseball going on, lots of news going on. It's coming thick and fast. We really are at the thick edge of spring right now.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. It is the thick edge. A lot is happening. We're starting to get kind of roster cuts cruising in. We're getting some, pitchers are being asked to do more. We're starting to piece things together. Like, it's all coming together. It's a bit of a unique situation, clearly, because Skip's trying to gel the roster and the lineup and the defense, and a few of the guys are missing because the WBC is happening. So not optimal for Skip Schumacher. However, us as fans, we have a lot to be excited about right now. There's just so much going on. There's pretty much 24/7 baseball, mate. The way the time zones work with all these pool games, plus spring games still happening. I even forgot the Marlins were playing yesterday. I kind of looked up and went, oh, wow, they've played. And, they scored 1 run and 5 hits. Okay, it's a spring game. Let's move on. But, Sean, let's start with the WBC, mate, because for me, there's quite a few takeaways I've got, but the main one clearly is, as Marlins fans, is just the sight that loanDepot absolutely jam-packed out. 36 in the house, 36,000 for some of the games. Even for the Israel game, a day game, there was like nigh on 20,000 there, mate. So for me, I'm just watching this, feeling a little bit sad, but optimistic about the future in some ways too. But equally, this is kind of like what you could have won in many ways. And I just start dreaming about what the future could look like if the Marlins make a really big run or make a run into the postseason. Like, it could realistically look like this, perhaps. I don't know. Where's your head at on this one?
Maybe not quite like this.
Maybe. Yeah.
completely fallen, and the party vibe that's currently going down in loanDepot Park. I mean, we're used to seeing this once a year. Opening day, we see full stadium. We see a team of fanship full of hope and expectations. And then it goes downhill, not just attendance-wise, but record-wise as well. No, it's been really nice to seeing the party on the concourse, the voices and the sounds and the dancing. It's great to see. It's what should happen at a baseball park. It's supposed to be fun. You're supposed to go there, enjoy a ball game, enjoy a party, have some drinks, bit of food. Should be great. It shouldn't be a case of the Marlins can only draw 8, 9, 10,000 die-hard baseball fans who are slowly but surely slogging their way through the season. This should be a party atmosphere. It's Miami, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
It is a case of this would be an opportunity lost if they don't try and see what's worked. And obviously, one thing that's worked is exciting baseball, winning baseball. That's always key. But it would be great if the ownership team could look at this and see ways to improve the experience on and off the field.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the thing you call out there is clearly the teams that are playing, which are drawing these sellout crowds. You've had Venezuela for 2 of the games, they've had 2 sellouts. You've also had the Dominican in game 1 there against Venezuela. So Sandy was going for the DR. You've then had Pablito going for Venezuela as well. But really exciting teams, both from a pitching perspective and offensive perspective. And listen, Latin South American baseball it's just a different vibe, isn't it? Like, that's the thing. The US fans, and when we've seen the US games happening, one of which being against Great Britain, but they equally had one against Mexico yesterday, US fans and maybe even players have quite a different approach. Whereas you get some of the South American guys and the fans, the vibe is different, the fans are different. Equally, the players are different too. I must say, there's an Italian guy that I want to talk about as well later on, but I do think this is part product, part the fact that it's, a playoff type experience where, you're condensing down into, a WBC into a couple of games effectively, whereas, 162, a rainy Tuesday against the Diamondbacks, like, it's tough to bring that energy. But the guys are certainly turning up. The energy's there. The players are responding, and it looks fun. It looks very, very fun. Some people may not be overly enamored by it. Like, I get that. Like, it may feel like it goes a touch too far. But overall, to your point, we just want to see fun. We want to see energy, because baseball should be fun at the end of the day. And that's my main takeaway. And the Marlins certainly have an opportunity to tap into some of this. But again, it comes down to the product on the field, though, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You can make the experience as fun as you want. If you lose 100 games every season for a decade, that ain't going to help much. No. But you spoke about, the Latin market that is in Miami. I mean, that's a huge market, and it's something that can be tapped in. And it's not just baseball. You look at I don't want to call it soccer, but I know I'll upset some people. You look at the calls on the radio broadcast, and you look at the fans and the crowds. It's that whole that whole environment is super fun. I got into KBO baseball during the COVID years because I'm a degenerate, and I was watching games at God knows what time in the morning. And the fans there were crazy. It was great. It was such a party atmosphere. And for me, I'd love to see that. And Miami, for me, is perfectly made for that.
It is. I think that's the thing. It's like that atmosphere, that vibe perfectly suits the Miami and South Florida market. Like, that's what people are looking for. And so it's how can the Marlins kind of just recapture some of that, create that situation. And granted, if what you're looking at on the field isn't fun, then it's going to be really hard to keep that energy, right? And so, it's all pinch of salt. Like, this isn't an apples for apples comparison, but the one takeaway has to be that the market is there. And it's an old saying, but I think it remains a goodie is, if you build it, they will come. And I do think if the Marlins can find a way to tap into that market with a fun product on the field, then there's an opportunity to really just take things up a couple of levels. It doesn't have to be sellouts every day, 36,000 every day, but just taking it up from 10,000, less than 10,000, once you're into the kind of guts of the regular season, up to 20,000 a game, 18,000 through the week. These kind of numbers, it would fundamentally change not only the vibe in the ballpark, but the finances too. Like, there is this balance with the ownership though as well, right? And this is why it's hard for us as fans. The ownership are saying, come and watch the Marlins and we will reinvest. And the fans are saying, product's boring, put a product on there that's fun and we will come. And it's like, which one comes first, the chicken or the egg type of discussion? So I'm with the fans on this one. I don't think you can, as an ownership group, say, it's a 100-loss team, but please come as regularly as you can and enjoy that. That's a tough sell. So the Marlins really need to be a winning club, and a winning club for some time, but with some flair and some swag. And they do have that with some players, like, with Jazz, clearly, Sandy, the rotation. There's some pieces to build around there, but there needs to be more of it, and it needs to be sustained, and it needs to be just the right culture and vibe in the ballpark too. Not just turn up, sit down here, have a hot dog and go home. Because that's pretty boring fundamentally, right?
But baseball can sometimes be a bit boring. Yes, I think they've done some. I think they've done some good things this offseason to improve that. especially for the younger audiences. And you're right, it is a case of they've got this jumping board from the WBC. You've got Sandy, a Cy Young winning pitcher, a genuine ace on the top of your rotation. You've got a young rotation. You've got Jazz. Like, these are the things that you need to sell. You sell these right, you lock them up. Sandy's locked up. We know that. There's no sense of he's going to, you get invested and all of a sudden they trade him away because he's at the end of his ARB years. Got him locked up to a pretty decent, controllable contract even for the Marlins.
Yeah.
They're running out of time to do it with Jazz because that 1-2 punch, that tandem of players, that excitement, that enthusiasm. Sandy brings the excellence. Jazz brings that, that excitement. Hopefully he follows suit and brings, some improved play on the field. And he's young and he's developing, and I expect that to happen. But those two players really could bring people to the ballpark. And then that brings money, and then you invest it, and then you build for sustained winning, which is what they've always spoke about wanting to do.
Yeah.
But the words are easy. It's easy to say these things. Doing it and actually delivering it as well is something completely different.
It really is. It really is. And it's really tough to do, in particular when you botch your drafts for a sustained period too. That's at the heart of many of the Marlins' problems right now. Is you sit back and look at the off-season moves in general, and last season's off-season as well, like just piece them all together. They're still missing, however you slice and dice it, you're still missing an impact stud middle of the order bat like you are. That's the thing that they haven't been able to execute on. They'll never be able to execute on that in free agency because they can't afford that. So they haven't been able to draft it, and they haven't been able to develop it, and they haven't been able to trade for it. And fundamentally, that still is missing. And that's a flaw for the way things are currently set up. They need to be bold and try to spin some of this pitching into that impact stick. That remains the priority here for the Fish. It's been a priority for some time. If they play center field too, that would be absolutely phenomenal, I'd say. But, I don't think it is position specific now. You've got opportunities in the corners. You've got opportunities pretty much all over the field. Impact stick is required. With that being said, guys, let's talk about our good friends over at LinkedIn. Let me get this ad queued up first. But these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. It's pretty easy to use, very easy to use, to be fair. You just create a free job post on LinkedIn. You can add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile, spreading the word that you are hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. That's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number 1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. You can post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonmlb. That's linkedin.com/lockedonmlb to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, Sean, continuing down the WBC theme, couple of things for me. Sandy, bit of a wobble. Pablito, definitely not a wobble. So nice to see those guys out there. Other highlights too include Luis Arias looking nice at first base, by the way. Like, there was some good plays he had yesterday. Gene Segura, no action yet. So there's a few things to stand out. Also, Ronald Acuna, speaking about that, there's been a little bit, it's only the 13th of March, and the Marlins Braves discourse around Acuna has already flared up. I thought that was kind of like, we're going to put that in the past with Don Mattingly. It remains, it's always there. Let's talk about Sandy though first, mate. He's all the pitches are on pitch counts at this point, but really it's high leverage innings. This is the point that I made. Like, there's a lot of risk here where all of a sudden for the Marlins, they have their ace going out there in games and situations where he wants to really perform and get guys out fundamentally, not in spring where it's like just go through the motions, whatever. But no Jacob Stallings behind the plate. Sandy, not his best start. I don't know if you saw any of the game, but overall, how are you feeling about this whole Sandy Alcantara situation? Pitching for the DR, no Stallings, but he's continuing to build up away from the Marlins organization. I'm not going to lie to you, mate. I'm feeling a little bit nervous about this whole situation. What about you?
I think it's going to be fine. It is that case of the
Optimism.
Marlins have players going to the WBC because they have good players. That's always a positive.
Yeah.
It could be a case of we could have all our players in camp working their way up ready for the season, but them not being picked would be for a reason. Sandy being there, yeah, it wasn't a great start. And to me, that's not a concern. It is a case of you're going up against all-star lineups. You're playing for your country. This is something that you don't see in American sports so much as you do with European sports, players playing for their country. This is something that we have all year round, every year, especially in football. So this is something that's different to them. It's new to them. It's not quite once in a lifetime opportunities for Jazz. It genuinely might be, but it is a case of these are extraordinary circumstances that they are nothing to do with, like you said, a boring April game in loanDepot Park playing against, I guess you play a lot of your division, but some of those games just aren't as stellar as others. These are big profile games. These are big profile innings and pitches. And having Sandy on that mound for me is a positive because we have a player of that stature.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. Equally, where I was going is you're nervous, right? In some ways, like everyone's nervous. All the clubs are nervous about their players performing in these games. The other thing that I've called out is it's great for Sandy now to, like, a couple of weeks away from opening day, to be in this leverage spot and to go, ooh, didn't quite have it today. Maybe I'm not quite as ready as I thought I was. Maybe I was feeling a little bit, I was overhyping it. Not overhyping, that's the wrong way of phrasing it, but you start to get in your head thinking everything's going to be okay. Next thing is not the greatest outing. He's like, okay, things to work on. That's good. And it creates an opportunity. He wouldn't think about maybe, well, I don't know that for certain, but maybe he wouldn't think of things in the same way in just a traditional Marlins spring game. But to be out there, packed crowd going against Venezuela, Luis Arias as well. This was the fun thing. Luis Arias with a big double, I think, against Sandy as well. So the clubhouse guys there heading face to face, head to head in that one, and Luis Arias coming out on top. But I like it, the fact that Sandy got a little bit of tap, to be honest with you. Like, I think it's good. Gives him a way to a few takeaways, go and work on it. What have you made of all this Ronald Acuna stuff, mate? It just keeps rearing its head for whatever reason. Maybe it will never die. This narrative around Acuna and Sandy and the Marlins, etc. I mean, every time a pitch goes anywhere near Acuna, the reaction is over the top, both in terms of Acuna himself and the fan base that follows him in terms of the Braves. Will this narrative ever die, do you think?
No, because he won't let it. Acuna won't let it. That ball was closer to the strike zone than it was to him. And yet you see him react and jump out of the batting box and put on this whole good song and dance. Yeah. I mean, I know it's the movie award season, but I think he's a bit too late for a nomination at this
He's
point.
Missed it.
It's crazy, isn't it? The ultimate point is he likes to crowd the plate. He likes to be able to see that bottom corner of the strike zone, get a good swing off on pitches that are difficult to hit. And as a result, he's up on. So he uses that to his advantage. He is literally saying, I own the inside. And if you come anywhere near me, I'm going to make all this song and dance. And then when you hit me, we saw Pablo get pulled after, was it the first pitch?
First pitch, I think, or at least,
and
first
Pablo
couple of pitches.
is the least likely person to do that with malice.
Absolutely.
And he wins all the time because he can make that happen. And obviously it blows up on social media because the Braves have this huge fan base. Yeah. And to me, it's a shame because we talked earlier about Acuna is and should be a star of baseball across the world.
Yeah.
And to me, that kind of football mentality, rolling around on the grass and making a big song and dance for a little bit of a nibble, it doesn't work for me. It takes away from the game. He should be hitting home runs, stealing bases, scoring runs, winning championships, and being a star player. This detracts from that for me.
Completely does. Summarized it perfectly, I'd say, mate. He's an elite player, no doubt. He is also a very sore loser, which is understandable. He's young too, but he doesn't handle adversity very well in terms of losing, in my opinion. And also, like you said, the rolling around and the over exaggeration of stuff. Like, it's we're not Braves fans. I like Acuna as a talent for certain. But the other thing I have to call out is Acuna, elite player. He's a bit of a tool. It is what it is. The two aren't, they're mutually exclusive. You can be an elite player and a bit of a tool. And the reality is, that's my view on Acuna at this point. Young in the head a little bit. They're having fun. I'm all for fun. But at the end of the day, he doesn't take defeat well. He likes to throw the clown emoji out, which is one of the most triggering emojis, I must say, out there. So he knows what he's doing. And he just over-eggs it. Let's just move on. Crack on. Sean, I did want to talk to you as well about the news that dropped over, the back end of last week as well. Yuli Gurriel finally did sign with the Marlins. They ended up getting on a minor league deal. And Jose Iglesias, it was bang, bang. I'm going to let you ponder on that in a sec, but quickly let you know about our good friends over at Built Bar, of course, guys. And it is the Built... Oh, hold on. Press the wrong button. It's the Built March Madness bracket is here. And we know you have a favorite bar or puff. Now's your time to make it count. Go to builtmarchmadness.com to vote for your favorites. You can, when you put your vote down, your favorite bar or puff, you'll be entering into a draw where 50 lucky Locked On listeners get a box of Built for free. Not only that, but one Locked On fan will get a 12-month subscription to Built to have Built's best bars or puffs delivered monthly straight to your door. You got to try those Builts. They're the best protein bar ever. Seriously, that's why they're so amazing. You won't think they're good for you. What makes them good? Well, for starters, they're all high in protein, low in sugar, covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. So, where have you got to go? For a chance of a year subscription here of Builts, you go to builtmarchmadness.com. It's all one word, builtmarchmadness.com. Vote for your favorite bar or puff. Pick up a box while you're there. You can vote every day in March, so hop in and support your pick. Love that. Love that new campaign from Built. That's flames. Sean, what was your take, though? Yuli in, Iglesias in. Do you see them making the roster here opening day? Both of them? One of them? Neither of them? How do you see it going?
I think the depth is a positive. I mean, especially with Yuli. We were getting a little excited. I don't know if excitement's the right word, but when the Marlins took their first bite at him, it didn't work out, and now they've finally met up, and it's a minor league deal. This is a zero cost, decision. There's no way that this can end poorly, other than if he really doesn't play well and they continue to give him at bats. But it is a case of the Marlins were, in my opinion, a little shaky with that depth. It was a case of injuries happen in bunches, don't they? It's not just one guy goes down, comes back, and a different guy goes down. You get to 2 or 3 go, and all of a sudden you're looking at the lineup, and you've got this September lineup of a 100-loss team in June, and you realise that the season's already over. This depth will help. I think Yuli has the bigger chance for me, just because of the need at first base. We've talked all off-season about the idea that Cooper needs somebody to back him up. Yeah. There were enough at-bats. I think there was genuinely enough at-bats for both of them. Yeah. The team clearly want to move Soler into the outfield. They want to, it's a case of they're piecing together. I don't see this 1 to 9, every position 120 times a season. I think there's going to be a lot of chopping and changing and having more opportunities, because not all these guys are going to perform. We saw plenty of that last year. So having more options, having more major league level options that you piece together, and the hottest hand will win out. All these guys are basically battling for 400 to 450 at bats, and then with injury, other guys will take over, and with performance, other guys will take over. You're literally playing for your play appearances, and for me, that's fantastic. When you've got a player underperforming, knowing, like we saw last year with Avi, he's underperforming, but they put him in the lineup every time. If you've got a guy out hitting him, then at a certain point, that didn't happen last year. There weren't people taking over his spot because there weren't people performing. No. More people you've got, the more opportunity you've got for people to perform. You lose at bats if you're not performing, and that would be fantastic for the Marlins.
That's the way it should be. That's what I've said, weeks ago. Everyone should be fighting for their spot, and that's why it's a bit frustrating when you just go, well, Avi's being paid this contract, so he's got to be in there. No. Earn that spot, Avi. And actually, he's having an okay spring. He's definitely cooled off recently, but just on Iglesias too. Iglesias in, the corresponding move effectively was Jacob Amaya was then optioned away from the spring camp and down to AAA. We hear then from Christina Di Nicola saying he's working on a swing change and they want him to go and work on that away from the team and get some more at bats, etc., etc. Iglesias, though, I do think there was a need to have another infielder on the roster as well as Birdie. I think Birdie clearly will make the roster, but Birdie will add depth everywhere. I've always felt that they'd need someone with Wendell to potentially kind of directly platoon with him, maybe. So I think this one makes a ton of sense in some ways. However, it potentially doesn't show some good signs for all of the work the Marlins have done in the middle infield, like Groshans, Amaya, Edwards, Garrett Hampson. I know he's a minor league deal, but those other three guys I mentioned, all on the 40-man, and they go and get Iglesias. I guess what that says is those three not quite ready yet, right?
Yeah, exactly. Especially Groshans and Amaya, as you said, they're both relatively young. And it is a case of, I think I spoke in the offseason talking about the idea that if the Marlins have them on the opening day starting lineup, something's going wrong. Mm-hmm. Now, is Iglesias that much of an upgrade? I'm not sure. But
I'm not sure.
He's a contact hitter with a genuine career's worth of stats. With Amaya and Groshans, you're hoping, you're projecting, you're predicting what's going to occur. With Amaya, if he just plays to his career norms, you've got a nice contact hitter who can be a defensive replacement in the middle infield. And yeah, as you said, the Marlins have got lots of options for the middle infield spots, but they're playing so many of them outside of those positions, they actually end up having middle infield lack of depth.
You're completely right. This is it. They've got, 5 second basemen, but they're spread out everywhere because they haven't got any other guys playing in those spots. Clearly, Jazz Chisholm in center field being the most talked about, but Mean Gene over at third base, Luis Arias being asked to play second base. He looked pretty neat, actually, at first base, I must say, for Venezuela yesterday. So I'm really intrigued. As we sit here, we're recording this pre-game today, and both those guys we've talked about, Yuli and Iglesias, are starting today for the Marlins. So really intrigued to see how they go. They took some at-bats, I believe, the day before last. Gurriel, within those at-bats, homered. Iglesias, I think, had some loud contact as well. So there's some jobs here for these guys, both Gurriel and Iglesias, to go and get them. We definitely need depth at first base. I think we still need depth as well in the middle infield. Birdie, I think, is on this roster. And then really it's going to come down to what they're going to do in this outfield spot as well. We don't have time to get into that one. We're going to call it a day there. Sean Barrett has been at work all day, including the morning time. So I'm going to go and let him have a snooze and recharge the batteries. But with that being said, guys, thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. Thanks for joining me and Sean on a Monday. Of course, it's a daily pod. So reminder, hit subscribe wherever you get them. We'll be back tomorrow on Tuesday. It's going to be a solo pod, I believe, on Tuesday. So you've got that to look forward to. I want to dig into Mean Gene Segura at third base and his connection with the WBC. I also want to dig into Edward Cabrera. One thing that we ran out of time to get into today, and maybe we'll have more information by tomorrow, is why is Eddie being pushed backwards and actually out of a spring game directly into a backfield game? Looking to try and get some more info on that, guys, to understand, is there a problem here with Edward Cabrera? But equally, what we now know as well, there is an option year that is now being added that was granted, and a fourth option year for Eddie Cabrera. So tons to get into on Eddie, plus Mean Gene, and whatever happens in today's game. We'll see you tomorrow.